When I was in the DA's office, I prosecuted under Judge Folsom the last 2 years. Judge Folsom had 2 cases that you did not even need to talk to him about. If you sold drugs or broke into a house, don't ask for probation because you weren't going to get it. And as a result, we knew in the DA's office what offers you could make and what offers you could not make. I prosecuted one guy for selling drugs, and the judge did give him a break. He was going to sentence him to prison and decided he'd let him do 6 months in jail here and do a split like Bill just said. And he became a trustee in jail, and I was talking to him one day. We were in the DA's office, we'd go down there and get coffee. He said, man, don't take that stuff personal. So I agree, you take it personal. Now the question on alternative sentencing, absolutely. Our prisons are running at 200% capacity right now, and you can't, lock them up, throw away the key is over. There's no way to do it. What's going to happen, eventually somebody's going to file suit like they did in California, and the federal court's going to step in, and they're going to do a mass release. Now look at the figures from California when they did a mass release of, quote, nonviolent offenders. What happens to nonviolent offenders who go to prison, they learn how to be violent offenders. It's just a camp. You teach them how. I've talked to Judge Cheney and I've talked to Sheriff Rainey a little bit about a local punishment option. Why not have the Joe or Pope, whatever the sheriff's name in Arizona is, that has built a little tent city for his prisoners, and have them wearing pink outfits and working. Give a defendant an option. You're going to go to prison, but I'll give you an option. 90 days in our prison camp. You work hard labor for 90 straight days. You pull through that. You learn to trade. We'll consider then putting you on probation, use it as a split sentence. So I think we have to, between our prison diversion program, which we use in circuit court, which has been very successful, we can continue to use that, which is basically a house arrest for the certain kinds of crimes. But we have to explore creative and new alternatives, because before long the state's going to start having to let people go.
This is a question that could be politicized. You know, Charlie Braddock said, "Fry until the eyes pop out." That kind of attitude, of course, just doesn't work in the real world. I think most everybody has answered that question about as well as could be answered. I one time was appointed to a man who was up in years, and his crime was that he had forged some prescriptions for Paragard. Now, the world has changed, because when I was a kid, my mom used to send me to the store to get Paragard when you had a bad stomach, you know. And here was a man, I think at that time was at least in his 40s, and he had, you know, a problem with Paragard. The trouble is he had some prior felonies. He was looking at life without parole. Life without parole for taking a prescription pad and scratching Paragard on there and getting it filled. Now, you got to use some discretion in a case like that. The man was not dangerous. He was not a murderer. He's not a robber or anything. So, thankfully, the DA at that time, we worked something out. But you got a situation like that, and the biggest thing is kids. You've got to have some alternative to a kid. We got to save these kids somehow. Now, the dealers, these guys that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, you know, all you can do to me is just somehow lock them away and keep them away from our kids. But you get the teenagers who have messed up and they've gotten off with the wrong crowd. There's got to be some programs, and I would be willing to look at any of them, to save those kids. And you're going to have to work, if you're the judge, with the legislators and the district judge, Judge Cheney, down through the years. He's a Democrat, but he is a good guy and a good judge. He's done a lot of work with the kids in this area. He could provide a lot of leadership for even us. But the kids have to be saved. If we don't save them, what is our next generation going to be like? You have to have some kind of alternatives. Thank you.
What I'm going to say. As far as the overcrowding in the prisons and all, you know, I think that what's been said here is correct, and there are some things that a circuit judge can do in regard to that problem. At its core, however, it's a legislative problem. It's a funding problem, because I'm not convinced that the solution to prison overcrowding is just not to send people to prison. Because what that does, it says you can do things, you can not follow the law, you can hurt people, you can break into people's houses, you can do drugs, and ain't nothing gonna happen to you. And that's not what we want. I think it was Bill that mentioned the certain types of cases incur mandatory sentencing, and until I had to resign in order to run for this position, was the district attorney or assistant district attorney responsible for the sexual offense crimes in the district attorney's office. And those are a category of crime where you do have to have mandatory sentencing. So, you know, maybe there's something that we need to do in terms of prioritizing what is going to be mandatory and what is not. I'm not sure that we know that for a fact, and that again is the legislature's decision. But I do think that the solution is not just to say, well, we don't have room for them. So that being said, I would tell you that yes, I'm in favor of at least looking at some alternative types of sentences. Something that will say to a person who has broken the law or harmed someone else that you don't want to do this again because you've had consequences that are painful, that hurt, whether it's a money thing, whether it's working out on the side of the road picking up trash, whatever it might be. So I'm in favor of at least exploring that. And I see my time is up.
My answer is, if you can't do the time, don't commit the crime. I don't have to commit crimes to live. I don't know of anybody that has to commit crimes to live. Now, if there's a situation where there's maybe a questionable, if this person should be leniency or whatever else, that's the district attorney's discretion. A lot of people don't understand how the system works here. The district attorney does the cases. If there's a plea bargain, he looks at all that stuff. He looks at the facts of the case, the scenarios and everything else. That decision is made before it gets to the circuit judge. You know, the only time we have to make that decision is when you're sitting there at a probation hearing. At that time, it is a case by case. You look at the facts. You got someone that's a career criminal, and they go to jail. It's pretty plain and simple to me.